Hello, Ruth here from Beltane Gifts. Welcome to the crafting Chez. We are once more in the garage, which means that I've got plenty of time to go out there into the wilds and to see nature. And because of that, I have been inspired to make one of these, which is a needle felted swan. Now, this is a great project to do because it's got lots of different techniques, one of which is wrapping a pipe cleaner, which is something I don't think I've shown you how to do before. It's a great technique and it also translates to wrapping around a wire. So if you ever wanted to make something kind of small and fiddly, like a little mouse, and you wanted its paws to have all individual fingers, this is the technique that you would be able to use. So if you're interested in something like that, definitely continue watching. If you're not interested in that, continue watching anyway because it helps me out. But yes, I've been basically out and about. When I've been dog walking, there's a lake near where I live and our little dog is terrified of swans, and it always reminds me of Monty Python and is it The Hunt for the Holy Grail, where there's brave Sir Robin and he bravely runs away. That's what my dog reminds me of whenever he sees anything or hears anything that's remotely scary in any way. So yes, this one's for him. And I can no longer feel my fingers. Can you see? They're just red and pruny. Anyway, I'm doing it for you guys. So I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more felting videos, be sure to click on that bell icon and the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future ones. Any comments, be sure to pop them down there below. I enjoy hearing from you guys. It's like there's other people out there in the world still. Yeah. Stay safe, stay warm, and I will see you out in the real world hopefully sometime soon. So today we're going to be using one of these, which is a felting pad, which is a cloth bag filled with rice. We're also going to be using one of these, which is a generic felting needle. This is the finest one I have of those. I've got a needle and thread. I'm using black cotton. Got some finger protectors because we are going to be doing some real close-up work, so these are really necessary. Well, as long as you don't want to get stabbed. Pair of scissors, these are smaller ones. Some beads. I'm going to be using, I think these are 2mm plastic round beads. I'm going to be using these for the eyes. You don't necessarily need to use the beads, but I quite like the effect they give. For the main body, we're going to be using this, which is white carded Corriedale fibre. I like using the carded fibre for doing 3D creations, mainly because the effect and the fibre, it's got that extra fluffiness to it, so it just lends itself to doing 3D work. It comes together a lot easier and quicker, and it also leaves less ridges when you're felting. And I've got some Corriedale here roving, and this is going to be for the beak. What I needed was some orange, but because I've only got limited colours here with me, I'm going to be using the red and the yellow and blending it myself. I'll show you how in a minute. And also some black Corriedale roving. Also today going to be using one of these, which is a pipe cleaner. This is about 30 centimetres long. You can get away with a shorter one. This is just what I had to hand. Now I'm going to be showing you today how to wrap these. It's quite a handy technique to have, and it's something that you can use if you wanted to make fingers, say for your creations. You can use pipe cleaners and make nice fine sort of lines. You can also use the same technique with wire. If you are going to do the same wrapping with wire, I would definitely recommend using something like beeswax or candle wax and just running it along the wire before you start, and that stops your fibre from basically coming loose or sliding off. With the pipe cleaner, because it's fluffy, it grips a bit like Velcro onto your fibre, so you don't have to worry too much about it going anywhere. I've also got just a basic drawing of a swan that I did earlier. What I'd recommend is if you download some pictures off something like Google or Pinterest, have them to hand of the animal you're trying to create. It's great to have reference pictures from different angles, just that you know what you're aiming for. So we're going to start off by doing the beak, and to do that we're going to need the beak colour. So I'm going to show you first how to do some blending by hand. If you are going to be blending colours together, I definitely recommend using the same breed of sheep's wool for the two different colours you're mixing. This is because the breeds of sheep tend to have different texture to their wool and also different lengths to their wool strands, and if you're blending together and you use two different strand lengths, you end up with tufty bits coming out the end, and we don't want that. So these are about the same length, and what we're going to do is just loosely hold in one hand, and with your other hand, I use my dominant hand, which is my right hand, just pinching right on the end there and just pulling a few strands at a time off. And what this does is it just gets the natural strand length for the fibre, and what we're going to do then is just mix them together and keep pulling them apart and mixing, and you'll want to keep doing this until the colours are evenly blended so that you don't have any sort of sections that are just purely one colour or the other. Okay, so that's going to do for me for now. If you want to, you can spend more time on it and make sure you get a real uniform mix of colours, but for what I'm using it for, this is going to do. So I'm going to put that to one side. Now we're going to start off by doing the beak and work our way down the neck and into the body. And the first thing we'll need is our blended fibre and our pipe cleaner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull the fibres, and it's called drawing out, and what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get equal amount of the fibre all the way along. There we go. And then rub it between my hands just to kind of create a strand of colour to work with. Don't worry if it's not uniform, we just want it kind of generally the same width. And I'm going to have the pipe cleaner, because I'm right-handed, I'm having it off to the left there. I'm going to take my strand of fibre, I'm going to lay it so that just the end, just about a centimetre or two, is just over the end there of the pipe cleaner, and then keeping quite a strong tension on the fibre, I'm just going to wrap it round, making sure it doesn't twist. We don't want it to twist, because if it does, you don't get this nice spread of fibres. And work my way down, and want to get a little bit longer than I want the actual beak to be. There we go. So I want my beak to be about so long, so I've gone an extra couple of winds further on. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my thumb nail just there, just leaving a little bit of fibre going past. I'm going to bend in half so it's flat against the pipe cleaner, and then with my strand of fibre there, I'm going to continue wrapping down towards the left. And because we want the beak to be slightly larger in diameter going towards the body, I'm just going to not move my fibre down as far, so I'm getting more fibre on top of itself as I work my way down. There we go, so it's a little bit more, sorry, a little bit wider there. Go over that a bit more, and then with my last little piece, what I'm going to do is going to go past the end here, and I'm going to keep wrapping. I'm pulling it really tight, see how taut that is, and I'm going to keep wrapping and wrapping. And what this is going to do is it's going to start connecting to itself and felting a little bit. I'm just going to give it a quick twist. I'm going in the same direction that I was wrapping, and what that does is it just felts those ends together and holds it in place. So there we go, that gives us our section here to be the beak. And that wrapping technique is what we're going to do for the whole body. So what we do is get a section of our white fibre here. I'm going to tear a section off. So again, about 30 centimetres long, and then I'm just going to pull off a section. Go, pull it all the way down. Put that to the side, and this gives us a section to start wrapping the head with. And using exactly the same technique, I'm going to leave a small section pointing down the pipe cleaner, put my thumb to hold it in place, and then I'm going to wrap it round, and this is going to be the head. So we want this to be a bit bigger than the beak. Don't worry that it's going quite high up, we can stab that down later. And we're just going to wrap it around a couple of times just to give us that added bit of diameter, I don't know, the bigger bit for the head. And then we're just going to work our way down the neck. Go. Now take your time with this, you want to get it nice and even if you can. And again, make sure it doesn't twist. We don't want it twisting because it'll just make it even more lumpy. Go. Now I'm going to try and keep it quite even as I work down the neck. We want the head to be slightly larger than the neck. And don't worry if you do end up with some lumpy bits. I must admit I'm not the best at wrapping. I don't do this technique very often. If you do find you have some lumpy bits, just give it a bit of a rub between finger and thumb and then work your way further down. And it's really important to keep the tension as you're wrapping and twisting, because you don't want it to get loose. If it does get loose, you'll find that you'll end up with sections like these. So what I'm going to do is just twist it slightly in the opposite direction just to tighten things up. Now don't worry that this is really quite fine, because I can go over the top with some more fibre just to bulk it out where I want it to. The trick is just to get this first layer all the way on. I'm twisting in opposite directions now, working my way right down to the end. Now with this one, because it's a bit fluffier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a felting needle to hold it in place. So on with the finger protectors, because we're going to be stabbing very close to our fingers. Pinch it with the head pointing to the left. There we go. So I've got my fluffy stuff here, and this is what we need to felt away. So with my needle, I'm going to be running my needle up the length of the pipe cleaner. So never stab down onto the pipe cleaner. If you do that, you can break the needle, just because the pipe cleaner's centre is metal. So what we're going to be doing is running our felting needle along the length of the pipe cleaner. Can you see that? How it's just catching those fibres on the side. So I'm not putting any sideways pressure on the needle. I'm just sliding it up there along the length of the pipe cleaner in between my covered fingers and tucking the loose fibres up and under. There we go. The bit that we've just wrapped. There we go. So that's nice and secure now. We don't have to worry about that coming undone. Now, as you can see, I have got some lumpy bits. I'm just going to give it a bit of a twist between finger and thumb just to even them out a little bit. And tighten everything up. There we go. And what I can do is getting a slightly narrower section of fibre. Just do exactly what I did before with your fibre going the opposite direction. And just wrap over the top and work your way down. And this bulks up the neck a little bit, and it also means that you've got a chance to just even out any sections that got a little bit lumpy. As I say, this is going to take some practice, something that I haven't been doing. So if you find that it isn't quite right, you're not happy with it, just go over it again. So I'm going to keep going down a bit, and the neck gets thicker towards the body, so what you can do is, instead of having quite a sharp angle going down, just keep your angle only slightly off, wrapping over itself, if that makes sense. So you're wrapping over more and more as you go, and it just gives you that thicker section there. Again, loose ends, we'll just felt those in. Okay, so we're going to compare this now to the image. We're going to use this as kind of our guide. So I'm just going to twist the neck round. The swan's neck is kind of an S shape into the body, so you want this sort of shape here. So what I'm going to do is, with our leftover part of the tail, I'm just going to fold it and then fold it again. There we go, and that just makes the pipe cleaner a little bit more sturdy for the backbone of the swan. Just gives us something there to wrap over. If you wanted to, you could cut it off, but you don't really need to, because we can hide it this way. So more fibre. This time I'm going to be using the full thickness of the the roving. Pull off a section there. So using about 35-40 centimetres worth here. And if you have a look at the picture, we've got more thickness here for the breast of the swan, and then it gets bigger here over the main body and then goes back into a point where the tail is. So we're going to do this section now. Again, we're just going to be wrapping, so lay it over and just wrap it round, and we're going to keep wrapping. Now the main difference here is with this section I am going to be felting over it, but we want to make sure we get a nice covering of fibre first. So wrap right to the end and then start wrapping back. And if there's any sections where we need to add more fibre, we can always do that in just patches of fibre, but it's so much easier to just wrap it on first. So that's our first layer of wrapped fibre. We've got our loose end here, so the main difference with this is we can stab down rather than across. Just be aware that the pipe cleaners are inside, so we want to avoid those when we stab. So I'm just doing quite a low angle, probably 45-degree angle, stabbing over, just working my way over that edge there, just so it doesn't unravel on me. And then any bits that are sticking up, like this section here, I'm going to stab over that too. And also just at the end, I'm going to stab along here, and the end, the pipe cleaners are just down here, so the end has gone over the pipe cleaners, and that's brilliant. We kind of want that, because what I want to do is just flatten the end of the body to create the tail. Now the way I'm going to do that is make sure I've got the head the right way up there. I am then going to be stabbing straight down over this whole section, being careful just in case the pipe cleaner's in there, and I'm just going to keep stabbing straight down, stabbing it pretty much into the cushion, which is why we've got the cushion today. And then once that's there, I'm going to just peel it off the cushion, turn it over and stab straight down again. And I'm going to keep doing this, turning it over and over and felting it until we've got a nice flattened finished tail end. So there, if you have a look, you can see now that we've got a nice kind of tail shape there, and I quite like it curving up. And a good way to get it to curve up more, if you want it to, is to stab on the top area here. And what this does is when you stab and felt over the top, it shortens the fibre length, and that means that this area ends up tightening and the end curls up, which is what we want. So I'm just going to stab round where the pipe cleaner is and just keep stabbing over that area, and you can see that's tightened the fibre here and the tail has just curved up a little bit. Now what you might want as well is to create more of a point where the tail is, and a great way to do that with your finger protectors on is to pinch, twist those, is pinch between finger and thumb, and I'm pinching quite tightly here, and you just stab between finger and thumb just along that edge. Now you really do need to keep a nice tight pinch when you're doing this. And we'll turn it over and we'll do the other side. And not only does this give us a nice smooth shape, it gets rid of that fluffiness from the loose fibres as well. There we go. And just keep going until you've got the shape that you're after. Okay, so we've got our tail. Just need to build up the body a little bit more before we can add the wings. So grabbing another section. This does use quite a lot of fibre. It's surprising how much goes into it, really. So it's taking off the colours. Same again as we did before. We're going to hold the fibre on, wrap it round the neck. Now don't worry about this being quite loose here. We're going to fill this up later and stab it into place, and just wrap along the body. And stab the ends into place. Now I know this looks a little bit funny still. We need to do a bit of shaping. So first off, we're going to attach the fibre to the neck. Now you'll see that we've lost quite a bit of the neck. Don't worry. What we're going to do first is just pull it down a little bit, and then with our needle we're just going to go along the length of the neck again. Just catch the fibre and just stab it in to where we've wrapped. So I'm just stabbing down along the pipe cleaner, catching the fibre, not putting any sideways pressure on the needle, we don't want to break it, just catching and stabbing. And I'm going to work my way round and just attach this fibre, and this will hold it in place and stop it from slipping. And work my way around these other areas too. Okay, now you might see that there are some areas here where the fibres crossed over that created lines. So I'm going to focus on those and go over the whole shape of it, stab over the whole body and bring everything in. And once we've got our foundation sorted, we can see where we need to add more fibre. This is going to take me a little while. I'm pretty much just going to be stabbing straight down for this at a 90-degree angle, maybe changing the angle if I need to push fibres down to a lower angle and just kind of felting it along. It's going to take me a little while, so I shall turn off the camera and see you again in a few minutes. Okay, so I've had a good old stab at it and I'm quite happy with the shape. I don't think we need to add any more fibre really, apart from the wings. So I think for a base this is going to do. And what I have also done is I've stabbed just behind the neck, because if we have a look at the picture you can see how the neck comes all the way down here into the body and then the breast comes out. So what I've done is I've just stabbed behind the pipe cleaner, worked my way around in a bit of a curve there, just bringing it down a little bit lower, because where I'd wrapped it the fibre had kind of sprung up a bit, and that's just giving us more of a curve there for the neck. Okay, so what we need to do next is add the wings. Now there's two ways you could do this. We could either add a big squadge of fibre here and then shape it on the bird, or we can make wings separately and then add them on top afterwards, and I think the second way is probably going to work out best for us here. So I'm going to put the swan aside for a moment, grab some more fibre, And I think with this, the best way to go is to pull off a large section. So again, about 40 centimetres. I'm going to fold it in half and then pull it in half. And the reason I'm doing this is it's best to measure out your fibre beforehand and split it so that you get equal sized wings. If you don't do it and then try and match up later, you'll find it's quite tricky. So I'm going to take my fibre and I'm actually going, let's measure it up against the bird. Go. I think that should be okay. So what I'm going to do is just fold it in half, lay it on my cushion, and I'm going to stab over the top. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a flat piece of felt and then shape it into a wing and then add it to the body. So what I'm doing is just stabbing straight down at the moment. It's just under a 90-degree angle, and then I'm going to peel off, turn over, and then stab over it again. And what you want to do is get a nice even stabbing of the whole thing, and just aim for any fluffy bits and just pay particular attention to sort of the wispy bits at the end. You might need to just kind of bring them in a little bit and peel it off again, and again pay attention just to where it's been folded. Okay, now where the end was, that's where our fold was, and that's our end. It's especially fluffy. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave a little bit of that fluffiness so that we can use it to attach it to the swan. Now I'm going to hold up the body here. So this is going to be the shoulder effectively. And that means that this section here is going to be the wing. So I'm just going to leave about that much. And we want to create our wing shape out of this. So I think what we can do is we're going to fold over to reduce the size here at the wing, and I think we can bring this in. So we're just going to fold here and stab, again leaving this section especially fluffy. Now the wings tend to wrap round, but I still want to bring this down just a little bit, I think. So what I'm going to do is the same technique we did before, where you pinch between finger and thumb, and I'm pinching, leaving a gap here, and I'm placing so the extra fibre is above finger and thumb. That's the bit we want to push down and felt into place. So you'll know you're done once it gets pushed down and you can't really see it as well, or from my angle. And just move your finger and thumb along. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of getting my needle in between finger and thumb, and I'm not bringing it out completely. I'm bringing it out enough so that I'm not putting any sideways pressure on that needle again. I'm just tucking those fibres in there in between. Now once you've pushed them down, it means there's going to be more fibre along this edge. So lay it on your cushion again, stab straight down, lots of stabs close together. And what this will do is it'll just flatten that bit a bit more for us. Ooh, keep my fingers out of the way. Now before we go too far, just check it's still about right. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the feathers now, and to do the feathers it's just a line. So decide how big you want your feather to be, how far back you want it to be. This is where those reference pictures really come in handy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do lots of little stabs really close together, almost a soaring motion, and I'm working my way along the same line over and over again until it starts to really show up and you can really see, ooh, peel it off, there we go, see that line there. And we're going to do that all along this section of the wing. Try and get them evenly spaced, and again try not to get any kind of sideways pressure on your needle. There you go. Once you've got your lines, what we're going to do again is pinch between finger and thumb, and we're going to stab just where the line ends. So you see the line ends here, I'm going to pinch and I'm going to stab down in that point between finger and thumb. And what this does is it just gives you that divot at the end of the feather, and it just helps it really stand out, gives it that definition. And again, make sure you pinch nice and hard. And there you go. Now if you wanted to, you can do some different curved lines just to represent some of the smaller feathers. Just do a little curve and keep going over them until they really show up. Just follow a picture of a swan so you know exactly where the feathers should go. The more detail you want to add, the more detail you can add. So just keep going until you're happy. I'm keeping it quite basic today because I want to make this as quick as possible. So there we go, that's our basic wing. Now before you attach it to the swan, what you want to do is make one as close to this one as you can. I would say identical, but the chance of it being identical are really slim, at least if I'm doing it. So I'm going to make another one. Remember that you want it to be opposite, and the best way to do that is to use this one as a template. So you should have about the same amount of fibre, it should be about the same length. So fold it in half, give it a good old stabbing first to flatten it out a bit, and then what we'll do is we'll match it up to the other one. Let me get it flat and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so I've flattened this one now. Now the main difference to how we worked the previous wing is that we're going to be using that one, as I say, as a template. So we've got our fluffy ends. I'm going to match them up. And we're just going to work out where we need to fold in. So there, I'm going to stab over that. Now what we want to do is match them in size as best we can. So there we go. What we're going to do is just see where it needs shaping. So it's going to need to come in a little bit along here. So pinch that and just attack from a top. Go. Now it's not quite as wide down here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull. There we go. Pinch between finger and thumb and just pull, because it hasn't been completely felted yet. It's still got a bit of give, so we can stretch it if we need to. There we go. And now I just need to go along this side here and bring this in. There, we'll just check. Lovely, so they're about right, and because we're doing them on opposite sides they need to be opposite. So what I'm going to do is just flip over, and I'm going to do my feathers here on this side. Now I've done this quite quickly. You can spend as much time on the detail as you like. The more detail you have, the more realistic it can look, or if you want it to look more like a caricature, then you don't need to do the finer details. I've just kind of done the real basics here just so you can see how it's done. But yeah, spend as much time as you like on this because it's going to be your project and you need to be happy with it. Now, I'm going to work out where I want these to go. Okay, we want the tail, pop the picture out again, so the tail's going to be sticking out, the feathers don't go quite that far, and I want them to be coming up a little bit, so I'm just tilting before I attach. Bring it forward just a tad, and all this loose fibre here, that's what we're going to be using to attach it to the body. Sorry, I've got lots of different bits of fibre caught up, just ignore those. So we're going to start stabbing just down towards the body, just loosely. We don't need to stab too deeply because we don't want to change the shape of the swan, we just want to attach. So I'm working just in little lines, little stabs, just catching those loose bits, and I'm going to go over this quite a bit just to make sure it's really securely attached there. And we want to smooth it out as well so it just looks like it's part of the body. Now the best way to get a smooth finish is to do lots of little stabs, not too deep but at quite a low angle. So if you see there, I'm literally stabbing against the body, and what this does is it gets the holes, and the holes are tucked under. So instead of stabbing straight down where you can see where I've stabbed, I'm stabbing at an angle so that those stab holes are hidden. Just a handy way if you don't want people to see that you've been felting. Go, so we've got our wing coming up here, and I'm going to bring it back, my stabbing just a little bit, just so that the wing starts to curl a little bit. And it doesn't matter too much here if the line still shows, because we want it to look as though the wing is separate from the body at the top there. And what we can do is we can felt this bit here in just a bit more firmly. Now what you can see is that there is a line, if I can get rid of the extra fibre, there is a line showing here where it's been joined. Now there is a trick to hiding this. What you can do is make sure it's nice and firmly felted, so lots more stabbing, and then what we need is called an awl. Grab one. And this is an awl. It's basically a metal spike, and we use this instead of using our needle, and it's a great way to protect your needle by using something else. And what we're going to be doing is just where the line shows, I'm going to use the awl. I'm just going to catch the fibres just lightly. I'm not stabbing too deeply. What I just want is those surface fibres. I'm catching them and I'm dragging them over the line. You see how it's getting quite fluffy there? If I hold my finger up there. So yeah, it's getting quite fluffy. So what we want is to bring all that fluff over, and we're going to stab it on the opposite side from where the line is. And what this should hopefully do is help to camouflage where that line is. There we go. And what we're going to do is do the same on the opposite side, and to attach the wing there. So try and match them up if you can. Have a look from different angles just to see where it goes, and then stab it into place exactly the same way. Okay, so I've just finished. There is a little bit of a mishap where I ended up putting the wing on upside down and back to front. But I've pulled it off, put it back on, and it's looking none the worse, so I think that's about right. There are some areas here that I might need to cover up later. I can always add more fibre over the top if I need to, or use the awl and just hide the line a little bit. What I am going to do before I move on though is, because I'm not going to put feet on this, I'm just going to have it so it can sit on a surface. What we need to do is just flatten the base where it's going to be in contact. So to work that out, I'm just going to lay it on a table, work out where it's going to be touching. So for me it's just around here. I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to just stab around in an oval shape, being careful not to hit that pipe cleaner. And once I've got myself basic kind of oval shape, not sure if you can see it there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stab down at a 90-degree angle, being careful not to go too deep. Again, don't want to hit the pipe cleaner, and also we don't want to make it concave, we just want to flatten it. So little stabs close together, work over that whole area just until it's flattened down a bit. So if I move it to the side, you can see there, that's the section I've been stabbing. I'm just going to go back a little bit further. There we go. And then you just test it by putting it on a surface, just making sure it doesn't roll over. So there we go. That's our basic swan shape. Before we finish, we just want to add a little bit of detail to the face and add some eyes. So for the detail, and we're just going to see that we want to add a little triangle here just before the eye, between the beak. And to do that, we're going to be using some of this black roving. I'm just going to pull off a section and take off the gloves. What I'm going to do is just going to mess it up, and I'm going to roll it into a bit of a ball. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to do all the black detail all in one go, and I don't want any loose bits just flying all over the place. So I'm just going to create a bit of a ball. There we go. This is the fiddly bit, especially with finger protectors on, but because we're going to be stabbing close to our fingers, it's definitely worth putting them on. What we're going to do is just lay the fibre over here. We're going to start here, just by the side of the beak. Go. and we're just going to stab in just one spot. So I'm just going to keep stabbing in that same spot. I'm just catching the black fibre and I'm stabbing it in between the orange of the beak and the white fibre we wrapped over the top, and I just want that to be nice and secure. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side, trying to get it kind of about the even position. So here I want to get it about there. And it's really important that you just keep hitting that one spot. If you spread it out too much, you'll end up spreading out the black fibre, and we want to get nice precise lines here. So that one spot, just catch the fibre, keep tucking it in. We really want to anchor it in place because we're going to be pulling against these in a minute. So we've got those there. We're then going to pull the fibre back to where the eye is going to be, which is going to be about here. So again, stabbing down towards the neck, just in that one spot. Keep going back to that exact same spot if you can. And you'll see there's some loose fibres here. I'm just going to catch them really lightly with the point of my needle and just stab them into that original spot we had. There we go. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Again, trying to get it kind of even, so look from side to side. I want it about there. And the more you stab in that same spot, the more the fibres in between the 2 points should start to tauten and create, if you can see it, that nice line there, which is what we want. Now we want this to be quite a fine line, and it's supposed to meet back here, back down here, just on the bridge here of its beak. So I'm just going to catch the fibre with my needle, again being really careful not to put too much pressure on the needle, and I'm just going to stab it in just in the middle of those 2 points. Okay, and just going to stab over these and bring that fibre down and in so that it's just above the nose there. Okay, and then once you've got those points in place, you can just have a little play with it and just bring things in a little bit, make this section just that bit narrower. And as with the wings, you can spend as much time or as little time as you want on this. Just stab in towards the centre if you want to bring things in. So I'm stabbing from above and below just to bring it in. And then once you've got it kind of where you want it, just stab straight down, again being really careful of that pipe cleaner, and match it on the other side. Okay, so once you're happy with how the effect goes, it's time to finish it off with some eyes. Now, as you can see here, the eyes are right on the point of the black section there, and because I don't like doing patching, and I like to do as little as I can get away with really, what we're going to do is we're going to come in from the back of the neck here, and we're going to come out just in the middle of this black section here, and I'm going to pull the thread just until it goes into the neck there and disappears. There we go. Then we're going to do just a little stitch. Make your stitches nice and small, we don't want them to show. And then once it's secured there with 2 stitches, we're going to come out just at the end of the first point, grab a bead, pop it onto our thread, and then sew back and come out where we did our original stitch. And then we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. Just a little stitch first, and then there we go, one last stitch just to secure your thread, and then back the way we came, out of the back of the head with your scissors. Pull your thread nice and taut. You want to pull against the thread and push your scissors against the back of the swan's head, and then just a little snip and there you go, you can't see your thread. Then all it takes is just a little bit of bending to get your swan exactly how you want it. And there you go. That's a tutorial on how to make your very own little swan.